Hi, and welcome to Joline Knits a Lot. This is my show about knitting and crafting in Edmonton, Alberta, in Western Canada, where it is the beginning of March and we are getting snow. Lots of fluffy white snow, but I'm ready for spring. Sometimes I dream about living someplace where it's green all year round, and I don't know if I'd miss the snow. I'm 46 years old, I've had that many winters, and I think I'm ready for a break. How are things where you are? It's been a hard couple of weeks. I don't know if I ever thought I would see a war in Europe in my lifetime. And there is a refugee crisis going on. But I acknowledge that this refugee crisis is getting a lot of news because it's predominantly white people who are being forced from their homes. We've certainly seen refugees from other nations in Asia and Africa, and this current situation is probably getting more media coverage because of its location and because the people who are being forced from their homes are white. But my family is from Ukraine. It moved to Canada 100 years ago. So this conflict is weighing heavy on my heart. And I've chosen to donate to the Red Cross for its efforts in Ukraine. And if you're moved to do the same, I would thank you. Not everyone has a connection to Ukraine or feels moved to help in this sort of this crisis, this event. But I think we all, in our ways, try to help in our communities or when there are crises that affect your community or the people that you know and love. And I think we all, as knitters, tend to be the kind of people who want to help. And so we all help in the ways that we can. And right now, my thoughts and prayers and donations are going to the people of Ukraine. Whew, that's hard. So I have a couple of finished objects that I'd like to share with you this week. I haven't been knitting as much, partly because it's hard to concentrate on things when you're bombarded with such heavy, hard news all the time. So crafting hasn't really been in the forefront. But in other completely unrelated news, my husband and I have purchased a new home, and we're going to be moving in the next couple of months. We take possession at the end of this month. There's a little bit of work to be done. We'll put our house for sale and we'll be moving. And so through all of that craziness, we're boxing things up and donating what we can and trying to get rid of a lot of things. I'm sort of slowly moving towards a more minimalist lifestyle. And I use that term loosely. I don't know if I'll ever be truly a minimalist, but I am looking forward to living a more simplified, maybe, lifestyle. Just with fewer gadgets, gizmos, things, and try and keep my possessions to sort of a happy medium. And part of that has been to give away some of my stash to friends and family who I know appreciate some yarn. And so I'm trying to de-stash a bit. I'm trying to work down my stash. I'm also trying to thin out what I have in my home, my possessions, things that I don't need anymore and maybe can be used by someone else. So that is sort of the upheaval in the world and in my own home has meant crafting has been a little on the back burner. But I do have a couple of finished objects to show you. One of them is lost. Maybe not lost, but it's somewhere in my younger daughter's room. I finished the zebra socks, and I'll post a picture here. They were delightful knit. It was out of some zebra sock made by Sea Turtle Fiber Arts, dyed in Calgary, Alberta, in the Freckle Juice colorway. They're just some very, very plain socks, top down with a heel flap and gusset on 64 stitches. I used 2.25 millimeter needles, and I just knit a plain sock. I can't remember the last time I knit a plain sock without changing colors for heels or toes or adding some kind of fancy pattern or something. It was just some plain socks. And she was grateful to receive them. So somewhere they're in her room. I tried to find them before I podcasted, but I don't know where they went. I'm sure they're somewhere. I hope. She looks after her hand-knitted socks quite well, even if she is a little bit hard wearing on them. So I'm sure they're there somewhere. I just couldn't find them. But here, I offer you a picture to enjoy my finished socks. In other news, my dog, who is making the packing process a little bit challenging, is turning 1 next week. No, not next week. The week after next week. March 14th is his birthday. It's his very first birthday. And so I thought I'd make him a little something to celebrate. So I made him some bow ties. I used the Fancy Puppers tie pattern. It's a free pattern by Knit Picks. And I used just some worsted yarn that I had in stash, because we all have some stash, don't we? And I made these 2 little bow ties. Aren't they cute? This one is for formal attire, and this one is for casual Fridays. It is knit in sort of a, it's a very straightforward knit. You use a cast on, like the kind of cast on you would use for a toe-up sock. So I used the Turkish cast on, but you can use whatever you like. You basically knit a tube, and then on the end you graft it closed with some Kitchener stitch. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time focusing. And then you make a little I cord, and you cinch it up around the middle of the bow tie, and then I tacked it down in the middle like this. So there's a little loop on the back that we can slip onto his collar, and it just sits on his collar. And maybe, if with any luck, later we'll get some modeled pictures. But so this is formal. This is James Bond Corgi, and this one is Casual Friday Corgi. So some bow ties. These took very little time and very little yarn. I think they used about 10 grams of a worsted weight. So if you have some little leftovers, you could make your dog or cat a little bow tie too. There are 3 sizes. One of them, the smallest one I think is modeled by a cat. So it could be for cats or dogs. This is the medium size, and then there's a larger one for your bigger dogs. This is the Fancy Puppers tie, bow tie. Woo! And I think this is some Patton's worsted, and this is some Galway heathers, just whatever I had in stash. And those were very quick knit. And also, because we had the beginning of the month, and I have been participating in the Year of Dishcloths hosted by Kitchen Sink Shop, I knit the March dishcloth. This is called Emily's Garden. Again, this year's dishcloths are all based on female characters in works of literature, and this one is based on a series of books called Emily of New Moon that I read as a child. So that was really delightful. Emily of New Moon is I think it's 3 books written by Lucy Maud Montgomery, who is the author of Anne of Green Gables. So just if you're looking for more works by, or if you liked Anne of Green Gables and you would like to try another of her works, I read Emily of New Moon before I read Anne of Green Gables. And so this is meant to represent the garden outside her window at her new home. I knit it in some Estelle Suds in the pistachio colorway. It just has a nice little lacy pattern all the way around the outside, and I knit it on 4mm needles. The pattern calls for 3.25. That just seems really tight for this yarn, so I've been knitting mine on 4mm needles, and I think it's just fine. And so this is another dishcloth that's going to go on the pile of new dishcloths for my new house. And that's all the finished objects I have to share with you. I have been working on 2 projects, one of which is maybe new to you, and one is an ongoing endeavor, although it's getting close to the end. I'll show you that one first. It's the Tsubaki pullover, and it is, so near to the end. I'm knitting it out of Walcott Opus yarns in this ink colorway, very deep navy. So close to the end now. I think I've talked about this before. I'll just hold this here so you can enjoy the beautiful sweater. This sweater has a very interesting construction. It's knit from the top down with some saddle shoulders, and then you knit one sleeve and you seam it up, and then you work around, knit the other sleeve, seam it up, and then knit from the body, and then you're done. So I have been doing that. As you know, I think the last time I showed you, I had finished a couple of sleeves. There's one, there's another. And this yarn has proven to be very, very lovely. It's got a beautiful drape. I think it is showing the cables really nicely, especially those big ones. So I've worked down the body, and now I'm just at the hem, which is just okay, I'm having a hard time showing this. Just a moment, let's see if we can do this better. Yeah, it's just a plain ribbed hem. And I've done maybe an inch. Yeah, probably an inch. So I have another 1.5 inches to go before I bind off. I did just a sort of plain stretchy bind off at the cuffs, and I will probably do the same for the hem. I'm not going to do anything too crazy fancy, and that's my Tsubaki pullover. I am looking forward to wearing it. Hello. And it's very near the end, but it's been something, again, I've had a hard time focusing, so it's not been something I've had an easy time working on, where I'll pick it up and work a couple rounds of ribbing and then put it down. But it will be done soon, and I'm looking forward to that. The last thing I have on my needles is a pair of socks that I am knitting for some special people. The first of a couple pairs of socks that I am knitting for special people. They don't have to share their socks. My youngest daughter has been playing soccer. She's been playing with the same team and the same coaches for a few years now, and they have been doing a really great job of keeping the girls active and motivated and working hard and improving their skills through the pandemic. And this winter season, they came in second in city finals, so they're off to provincials next weekend. So I'm making a pair of socks for each of the two coaches. My husband is actually one of the assistant coaches, and he'll get a pair of socks too, just not imminently, or he'll get them when he gets them. So I cranked out some sock tubes. Here's one of them. So you can see I've already put a toe on this one. This is some Area 51 fibers. Area 51 fibers is a dyer of striped yarns. I believe she's from Saskatchewan. If I'm wrong, I'll put that right here. But she has lots of really fun colorways based on TV shows and novels and movies. This is actually based on Star Wars. It's called Chewbacca Frap. So it's very Chewbacca colors, but it also sort of is in line with the team colors for my daughter's team, which is black and white with sort of a gold color. Actually, my dog really matches her team colors. That was accidental. So I'm turning some sock tubes into some socks. So this is one of the ones I was working on. I did a toe, and you can see that this tube has still got some waste yarn. When you crank sock tubes on a sock machine, often people put waste yarn in between the socks. So that's what this waste yarn is. And I still have to add a hem or a cuff at the top, and I will cut in a heel. I have been working on the second sock, which I did the cuff already, and I'm working on the toe. I'm using some West Yorkshire Spinners yarn. This is their 4-ply sock yarn in the milk bottle colorway. I've heard a lot about this colorway for heels, cuffs, and toes on other people's podcasts. So I wanted to give it a try, and I bought two skeins of it. So that will go a long way. And I was just looking for an alternate to my favorite, which is Sheepy's Metropolis in the Warsaw colorway. But I think that the milk bottle is looking quite nice on this pair of socks. So I did a hem or a cuff. I'm working on a toe. And by the time I finish this toe, I will have I'll be almost half done this pair of socks. So it does really go quickly when you're turning a tube into some socks. Now, I had been talking a little bit about my new and improved 3D printed sock machine that my husband and I have built. Well, he did most of the printing and I have done a fair amount of the assembly and it's working quite well right now. I think I have found the sweet spot for getting a really decent gauge. I'm pretty familiar with how it works and I feel like it's working quite nicely. I do have all of the parts printed for another sock machine, a 64 stitch size. And I would like to do a series of videos on how the parts that you need, where to find them, and how to put it together. So that'll be one video. The next video will be how I crank socks on my sock machine, so how I use it. And then the third video will be how I turn my tubes into socks. Other people have done these videos too. And if you're really interested, you could probably find some videos now. I'll be adding my meeker take on these subjects in the next few months. But because we're moving and I don't think it makes sense to start those videos now before I've moved. Once we're settled in our new home and I have a office/craft room of my own, I will start working on those videos. So I am looking forward to showing you how we put things together, how I crank my socks, and how I turn my tubes into socks. It's not rocket science. I'm sure a lot of you already know how to do it. But I will do a video just to show those people who maybe would like to see how I do it or who have never done like an afterthought heel or turned a tube into a sock. I'll just show you how I do it. And it's not difficult. If you've knit socks already, you can probably do all these things. So look for those hopefully in the later spring and summer of this year once we're sort of settled in our new home. But I'm looking forward to having a couple of pairs of Coach's socks off my needles and into their hands. Maybe even by next weekend. Wouldn't that be nice? Anyway, that's all I have to share with you today. It's been, it's an odd time right now for us in terms of the world and also just in terms of our own home. We're moving. That's sort of a big change. I haven't moved for 20 years, so it's been a while. But I look forward to the change, and I'm looking forward, I think, to being settled in our new home. I'm not moving far from where I currently live. I think it's 3 kilometers away. My kids are going to the same schools. We're keeping the same grocery stores. My dentist is the same. Nothing is changing. We're just getting a little bit more room to breathe for our family. So I'm looking forward to sharing my craft room with you, where we will be probably chatting from in the foreseeable future. In the next couple of weeks, I hope we can find some peace, both personally and internationally. My prayer is for peace for you and for all of us. I hope that you find time to find peace for yourself, if that means crafting or taking a walk or dealing with your dog who likes to bark a lot. I plan on knitting as much as I'm able. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye.